Lawmakers grill military leaders over the Space Command basing decision. And the U.S. Navy says Iran shined a laser at an American helicopter. All of that and more today, September 29th, 2023. Good morning, early birds. I'm Jonathan Lehrfeld, and this is the Early Bird Brief, produced by Defense News and Military Times. A quick note for you all, we'll have a bonus episode today at noon Eastern with Military Times editor-at-large Todd South. Todd takes a look at the new structuring of infantry units within the Marine Corps and how that restructuring has been controversial. First up, the House Armed Services Committee chairman said he'll request a Defense Department Inspector General investigation into the decision to base U.S. Space Command headquarters in Colorado. During a hearing yesterday, Committee Chairman Mike Rogers also promised to continue pushing for legislation that restricts military construction funding from being used to build a permanent headquarters facility at Peterson Space Force Base in Colorado. This all comes after the White House announced in July it would keep the headquarters in Colorado Springs. Rogers and other lawmakers claimed the decision was influenced by politics. The Colorado decision is in opposition to a prior announcement made in the final days of the Trump administration to move the headquarters to Huntsville, Alabama. Colorado lawmakers pushed back on that decision. Representative Doug Lamborn requested a Government Accountability Office review of the decision and a DoD Inspector General investigation. Both inquiries determined that while the basing process lacked transparency and credibility, the Air Force followed the law in choosing Alabama. After the White House abandoned the move to Huntsville, Rogers launched a congressional investigation into the decision. Rogers represents Alabama's 3rd congressional district, which does not include Huntsville. Defense Department officials testified during the hearing that the decision to keep the command in Colorado Springs is tied to operational readiness concerns. Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall led a reevaluation of the Trump administration's basing analysis that focused on facility needs and workforce requirements. He told lawmakers the results were consistent with the previous basing process, identifying Huntsville as the most affordable location and highlighting Colorado Springs as the site with the lowest operational risk. But Space Command Commander General James Dicken said keeping Space Command in Colorado will allow the organization to maintain mission readiness and retain civilian personnel. Another important story, the new chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee could still hinder Turkey's efforts to procure new F-16 fighter jets and Saudi attempts to strike a mutual defense pact with the U.S. New committee chairman Senator Ben Cardin stressed that he would make human rights concerns a key factor in approving arms sales to other countries. Cardin replaces New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez as the committee chair. Menendez stepped down following a federal indictment over an Egypt-linked bribery scandal. Saudi Arabia asked the U.S. for a mutual defense pact and a civilian nuclear agreement as conditions to normalize ties with Israel. Cardin called a Saudi-Israel normalization deal a game-changer in the region, but he cautioned he would demand human rights accountability and security cooperation safeguards as part of any U.S. commitments to Riyadh. As chairman, Cardin will have considerable influence in whether to advance any security treaty with Saudi Arabia that requires Senate ratification. He'll also need to make a decision on whether to hold $235 million in Egypt military aid following the Menendez indictment. Cardin will also look at a deal for Turkey to purchase F-16 fighter jets from the U.S. Menendez repeatedly said Sweden's NATO accession would not be enough for him to approve the sale. This week, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said he believes Turkey's chances of getting the jets are increased as a result of Menendez stepping down. But Cardin said he has not yet made a decision on whether to allow the sale to proceed. The Biden administration had been in close contact with Menendez on both its negotiations with Saudi Arabia and Turkey. Cardin is still waiting to receive those briefings in the weeks ahead after assuming the chairmanship. In other news, there were glimmers of hope there could be future compromises after the Senate confirmed 3 top uniformed leaders of the military last week. But now that's not looking like it's the case. For more on this, Military Times Capitol Hill Bureau Chief Leo Shane III joins the episode today. So, Leo, some folks thought last week's breakthrough to confirm several top uniformed leaders, including the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, would open the floodgates for more than 300 other nominees stalled in the Pentagon confirmation fight. Is that not the case? And do things seem to be stalling again?
Yeah, look, it doesn't look like we're going to be getting many more nominations through the Senate very soon. The objections of Senator Tuberville that we've been covering for months now still are in place. Just this week, the Senate Armed Services Committee approved two more high-profile military appointments. Admiral Lisa Franchetti for the position of Chief of Naval Operations, General David Alvin for role of Chief of Staff of the Air Force. Last week, there was hope that since they had gotten a few through, maybe at least the top level folks would be moving quicker, maybe all the Joint Chiefs would be filled. But as we've talked to lawmakers today, we're finding out that there's really no timeline again, and that those two remaining vacancies in the Joint Chiefs are probably going to be there for a little while. This time, the culprit is as much Senator Tuberville as it is the government shutdown that's looming here. The Senate just doesn't have a lot of time to deal with anything except for trying to keep the government open and trying to find a budget deal. And Senator Tuberville said he's not interested in opening up any ways to fast track this. His objections over the abortion access policy still stand. So despite some of that optimism last week, it looks like we're going to be seeing a lot of senior level military vacancies just hanging around.
And so you spoke to Senate Armed Services Committee Chairman Jack Reed about the committee's focus right now. Where is his focus at, if not on coming to a more permanent resolution on this fight over confirmation holds?
Senate Armed Services Chairman Jack Reed said, it's not so much that they're not still worried about this. He wants to get everyone through. There are now more than 330 nominees that are pending. More are getting added every couple of weeks here. They're still concerned about that, but in terms of the entire Senate, the focus is on this larger budget issue and the government shutdown issue. So, while he can get his work done, he can't force leadership to pivot to something else if they feel like it's more of a priority. So that's where we're at with trying to figure out where military leadership comes. C.Q. Brown, the new Joint Chiefs Chairman, he takes over this weekend. That's good for the military, but he steps in with a lot of senior level leaders vacant at this point, and a lot of concerns about when he's going to be able to get them. Look, I think a lot of this is going to just depend on how long the shutdown lasts. And what we're hearing right now is that a number of lawmakers are buckling down, thinking this is going to be not just a couple of days, but maybe a few weeks, maybe even more than that. Would be unprecedented in recent memory. But the political fights going on here are just too far apart at this point to see a quick resolution.
Thanks, Leo. We're closely watching Congress as it races against the clock to reach a budget deal. Tune in on Monday when Federal Times reporter Molly Weisner gives us an update about the shutdown. Also on your radar for today, Naval Forces Central Command said the Iranian Navy shined a laser at a U.S. helicopter during an unsafe interaction. For more on this, Navy Times reporter Diana Stancy joins the episode today. Hey, Diana, can you describe what happened with the unsafe interaction between the Iranian Navy and the U.S.?
Iranian's Navy shined a laser at a U.S. AH-1Z Viper attack helicopter as it was conducting routine operations in international airspace in the Arabian Gulf on Wednesday. This happened at approximately 7:30 p.m. local time. The laser was shined at the helicopter multiple times while in flight, but U.S. Naval Forces Central Command said that the aircraft was not damaged at all and there were no injuries as a result. The helicopter is assigned to the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit and is deployed with the amphibious assault ship Bataan.
Have there been any other recent hostile interactions between the U.S. and Iran in the region?
Yes, U.S. Central Command actually estimates that Iran has either attacked or seized approximately 20 vessels since 2021. Most recently, Iran tried to seize 2 oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf of Oman on July 5th. In both cases, the U.S. Navy destroyer McFall intervened, prompting the Iranian vessels to depart the scene. In response, the U.S. sent the Bataan and the dock landing ship Carter Hall with more than 3,000 sailors and Marines from Norfolk, Virginia to deploy. The Pentagon said that this was in response to Iran's recent attempts to threaten the free flow of commerce in the Strait of Hormuz and its surrounding waters. This comes after the U.S. had previously sent other military assets to the region to undermine Iran's actions, including Air Force F-35 and F-16 fighter jets and the destroyer Thomas Hudner.
Thanks, Diana. If you liked our conversation today, please like and rate us wherever you get your podcasts. And now, here are some other stories that we're hearing chirps about. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss the status of the war and the needs of troops yesterday. USNI News reported that the Navy is decommissioning littoral combat ships USS Little Rock and USS Detroit this week. Both ships have less than 10 years in service. CNBC reported that the Pentagon awarded its first contract to Elon Musk's SpaceX for its Starshield satellite system. The one-year contract could be as large as $70 million. Taiwan launched its first domestically made submarine for testing. It will only be handed over to the military after passing both its harbor and ocean-faring tests. And on this day in history, in 1789, the U.S. Congress passed an act to establish troops. The move legalized the existing U.S. Army, which was inherited from the Continental Congress. That's it for us this morning. To get more of the top stories and breaking news, go to defensenews.com/EBB to subscribe to the Early Bird Brief newsletter. Please give us a like, rating, and a comment wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media @defense_news and @Military Times. The Early Bird Brief is hosted by me, Jonathan Lehrfeld, and produced by Zamone Z. Perez. Today's episode features stories by Courtney Albin, Brian Harris, Leo Shane III, and Diana Stancy. Our editor-in-chief is Mike Bruce. Have a great day.